Back then, in our parents' or grandparents' day, most people had the security of being able to work in 1 or 2 jobs for their entire life. But nowadays, it's quite different. There are rarely people who stay in the same job for 30 or 40 years. That kind of security, if you will, simply doesn't exist. So instead of hanging on to one job and one career, what most people will do in our generation is that they will experience multiple transitions between jobs and even careers. And this is due to 2 reasons. The first reason is what we could call an external factor, which is the general economy or the company strategy, which may necessitate them to lay off people. And the second reason is because many people nowadays take ownership of their own career and they voluntarily choose to quit their jobs, leave their old career and start a new career or transition to a new industry. And some people simply want to take a break from the job that they were working in for the last 10 or 20 years to either upgrade their skill, go back to work, or even start their own business. And oftentimes when people start something new, they will experience this as a kind of crisis. Many people are familiar with what is called the midlife crisis or also the quarter life crisis. But I would say that experiencing a crisis is not attached to a certain age, but rather to a certain phase you are in your life. So each time that you are making a transition where you are leaving something known and familiar behind to move on to something that is unfamiliar and perhaps a bit risky, then you are stuck in an area that's in between, that is a bit risky, that is insecure, that is uncertain, and that is where you experience something like a crisis.
My, what a peculiar place to have a party. Goodbye, Dinah. Goodbye.
And I would urge you here not to see a crisis as something that is negative. On the contrary, a crisis is needed if you want to make progress and move on to something better. Nowadays, a lot of change and transitioning is needed to adapt to whatever is currently going on in the world. But I would say that it is not just an external requirement. It's not just the case that you are forced to change or adapt, although that is also the case in a certain way. Rather, that nowadays you also have a lot of options. You have the options to take ownership of your career and have the option to change your career and to transition in a way and to a place where you want to be instead of just going with the flow and doing what everyone else does.
Chaos isn't a pit. Chaos is a ladder.
And transitioning, the ability to affect change, whether it's wanted or unwanted, is a skill nowadays. And I would say it's almost a meta skill. And in the book 100 Life, Linda Grattan and Andrew Scott say that transformational skills are so important that they deserve their own asset class. So they are called transformational assets. You're surely aware that we have physical assets. We have tangible assets like money, property, our car, and so on. But not so many people are aware that we also have intangible assets, which we also need to maintain and grow, because otherwise these can also depreciate. If you have any plans to change your career in near time, or you are aware of the fact that in this lifetime at some point you will need to make some changes to your career, then the ability to transition is crucial.